Near, rip a hole in the sun. Welcome to Cum Paude. Why would you cum soft when you can cum louder? Yeah.
Welcome to Cum Laude. Cum Paude. You already know who it is coming at you. The hostess with the mostest, hon. I'm joined here by my co-host, the esteemed Dame Judy Dench, the prognosticator, proctologist himself, my brother, the Firmalicious. What's going on, Fermi?
It's another great week here at the Public Honors College of Fantasy Football League as we move on to week 8. We've still got Pat as undefeated 7-0 going against a huge test this week against the Dame Judy Dench. And we see what's going to happen with the rest of the standings as we go through. I think we're going to recap what happened in week 7 to see what got our teams to where they're at. And we're going to go ahead and cue that music. Here we go. Let's jump right into it. We had the Hot July Pies facing off at the Cum Sales. The Pies were given 10. That didn't matter. They won 139-61. Massive victory. Has the luck run out for the Cum Sale? I think it might have, because Bijan Robinson just turned out a great headache kind of game and got a touch red at the end of the game and nothing at all. So there's a little bit of question marks there around Arthur Smith's decision making and whether or not to release that kind of information to the masses, because they owe that to us fantasy owners. Big games from ETN, Josh Downs, Jahmyr Gibbs gets the lion's share this week and turns out some good points. And the Bears defense stepping up and showing out. July Pies with a massive victory, taking the win home. Moving on to the John Wilkes Tooth going against Laporta Potty. The Tooth was favored by 16. Potty says, no, favor me, and takes the win 74-60. It was a bye week for sure for the Potties, but they were able to throw in Josh Palmer and Jackson Smith-Njigba with the Seahawks, and those guys just turned out and put in those points. Maybe not a lot when you're only scoring 74, but it was enough to get the victory. Wilkes Tooth really struggling right now, catching big fish, so that's cool. But negative points from Deshaun Watson, who came back, ended up leaving the game early. But when your quarterback's putting up negative points, that's not going to bode well for you. Everyone around the team there this week scoring low, only amassing 60 points. Potties gets the win. We move on to the Minnesota Scrotums going against the Pubic Medusas. This was going to be a huge matchup between these two teams. Unfortunately, the Scrotums, missing Justin Jefferson, just didn't have what they needed there to get the win. End up going down 138-125. Medusas was favored by 9. They get the win against the spread. But I think Justin Jefferson was really the big deal there. It was a good fight, but just not enough, 13 points shy. Solid games, as always. Jalen Hurts, Christian McCaffrey, Mike Evans coming off a bye. We know how well Mike Evans does coming off that bye, and Travis Kelce doing what Travis Kelce does. The Medusas gets another win, moves up to 6-1. We move on down to the ESPNs and the Ham Stars. The Ham Stars still sitting in that cellar at 1-5, but scoring tons of points. They were favored by 27 going into this. They end up winning by 28, 116-88. Barely covers the spread, but they cover the spread. Who cares about the spread? It's a W. Ham Stars get that W. Moving on to 2-5 here. Solid week all around. Gets that second victory. ESPN's, your running backs are terrible. I know you've got an injury with David Montgomery hurting you, but all around you have no depth. Looking at your team week in and week out, it's really difficult. Pot calling the kettle black here with running back injuries all around, but some moves have got to happen for this team. Mahomes doing his thing. Cooper Kupp was a little bit quiet this week. Came back with a great roar since coming back off of the poop list. But all in all, loses 116-88. We'll see if they can bounce back next week. Still sitting middle of the standings there. Ham Stars getting that win. Then we move on to another fun matchup of the week. Ended up being a bigger game than we expected. It was Gimme Flowers against the Jumbo Ween Cannoneers. Flowers were favored by 22 here and ended up only winning by 20, so losing against the spread there. Massive games for the Jumbo Wieners out of Foreman, getting 3 touchdowns for the Bears out of nowhere. Who'd expect that? And then Addison is here. Jefferson is out, so Addison is now the primary pass catcher in Minnesota. Really showed what they can do in the game, and hopefully they don't get pulled over for exceeding the speed limit as they did in the preseason and ruin that fire for Brian's Wieners. But it did not matter. Flowers wins 156 to 136. Gets their big old production out of Lamar that we expect to see here and there. Lamar's a little up and down, but was definitely up in this one. And all across the board, great production from this Flowers team. They're really starting to come into their own. We see them as a top contender this year. See if they can keep that rolling. 156 is a lot of points. Brian's team, the Wieners, 136. It's tough to lose those when you put up that many points. And you look around the league and see some of the lower scores that some of the other teams are putting up, especially during the bye weeks. Flowers gets the win. Jumbo Wieners still 2 wins. Then we move on to the other 2-win teams. We've got Dame Judi Dench at the Taint Party. The Taints were given 11, and they win by 14. The trade for Gus Edwards really makes a difference here as Gus puts up 20 points, trading to your enemy and getting the loss because of it potentially. Alvin Kamara will not stop catching balls. Luckily, we're in a half-point PPR with how many catches that Alvin had, but really knocks it out. There was a slow start for Jordan Love there, really scaring the Taints, but ended up pulling some out of the bag and getting the points necessary to take the lead. Cue the sad music. We'll keep the same music rolling, but Dame Judi just feeling sorry for himself over here with the injury-riddled lineup. Before the game started, Freiermuth gets called out. Debo gets called out. Right 15 minutes before the game, DK Metcalf gets called out. Jerome Ford leaves the game with an injury. Zach Ertz leaves with an injury. There are now 7 players on the IR, a few more players that are ruled out for a couple of weeks. It is getting tough to start a lineup. But staying positive, looking for trades. We'll see what happens. Taint Party gets the win, gets on the right track, 97 to 83. Not a lot of points. Needs to start scoring more. Needs to get that production out of Devontae Adams and Austin Eckler. It'll come. It'll come. Just be patient and be a playoff team and be ready to make a move. Moving on to the final matchup of the week. Big Dak Energy going against the undefeated Beth's Healthy Twins. Big Dak seems like a really great contender here to make a push against the Twins. Big Dak was actually favored in this matchup by 12, and Healthy Twins money lines it and wins 130 to 119. Solid play from Kirk Cousins as always. Puka Nacua is getting back up there even though Cooper Kupp is back. Mark Andrews finally coming to shine, getting lots of points. Big Dak, big letdowns from Tua, and big letdowns from Josh Jacobs, but solid play across the board from the rest of their team. As we know, they are the deepest team in the league, but unable to get the victory. So Beth's Healthy Twins goes to 7-0. Very excited that we are going to get a chance to speak to an owner this evening, and it might just be the Healthy Twins. We're going to turn it over to Bluto Ploopsicle to talk about Nick's picks for the Week 8 matchups. They went 4-3 against the spread last week, 27-21 against the spread total this year. We'll see if they can put together another solid week of picking games. Bluto, what do you got?
Oh, baby, that was a fast 7 minutes, and we got a packed show the rest of this here today. So let's quickly get through Nick's picks. 27-21 ATS on the year, baby. We are cruising, really starting to hit our stride here. I think we've got a good feel for the league, and expect a few perfect weeks from here on out. But these are our Week 8 picks, the Week 8 prospectus, the Nick's picks, the projections. And let's start with yours truly. We got the Jumbo nears at the Cum sale. Oh, baby, you know, I love being a home dog, but this is one of our tightest matchups of the year. The Wieners laying 1.5 on the road at the Cum sale. This is a battle for the basement, I think. This is kind of one team that is already kind of there and another team that probably should be there. And I think there was some commotion about me not necessarily betting on myself. I did last week and got my ass kicked. It was pretty brutal. So on this one, what are we going to do? Well, if Bijan Robinson does not have a hangnail, then perhaps the Cum sale can win. Will we ever know, Arthur Smith? Hell no. Who the fuck cares? Cum sale getting it done. Give me the home dog. Lock it up for the Cum sale. We've got John Wilkes Tooth visiting the Pubic Medusa. The Medusa's laying 16 at home, baby. John Wilkes Tooth, They used to always figure out a way to get it done. This year, not as much. I expect a bounce back week from them this week. I don't think they get the win, but I do think they cover the 16 points, too many points, and the Medusas are not necessarily in a position to just run up the score right now as we're kind of in the heart of the middle of this season. So give me Wilkes Tooth plus the 16. Geek, lock it up. Porta Pot's heading to the July Pies that had a big time hot week last week. Pies laying 8 at home, and their hot streak continues as they kind of climb their way towards the top of the standings. July Pies getting it done against the reeling Porta Potties. Pies laying 8, they're going to cover. Take it to the Bizank. We've got the Scroats at the ESPN. Scroats only laying 2, another tight projected matchup here. The Scroats have been talking a big game. ESPN has been silencing a big game. I think that the ESPN woes also continue here, and the Scroats go on the road and get it done. Not going to be a massive win, but I'd say get it done by about 5 to 7 points here. So lock it up for the Scrotums. The Hamfists at Big Dak Energy. Dak laying 4. Hamfist, the one who we've found to be our bad luck all-stars all year. Maybe could just be bad at times too. I don't really know. Is it hard luck? Is it just hard? I guess we'll see. Is this the week that they get it done? It is. The Hamfist actually gets it done. They cover and win. Sprinkle a little on the money line for the Ham Stars. The Flowers at the Taint Party. This one should be fun in the chat, one that we're all looking forward to. Flowers laying 3. Again, our preseason darling. It's 5-2 on the year and sitting pretty. Getting his team ready for a playoff run against the Taint Party that just seems to be hanging around and in a position to be able to get things done. I do think the Taint Party at home covers this one in our closest matchup of the week, but they do not get the win. We're going to say an outright win here for the Flowers, but the Taint Party splits that 3-point difference and covers the spread. Geek. Boom. And lastly, to the Dame Judy Dench, me co-host, against Beth's Healthy Twins. Our guest, be our guest, be our guest. Put Nick's picks to the test. The Twins laying 11 points. Dame Judy Dench just beat to shit. The infirmary is loaded. We've got stretchers on the streets at this point. No chance. Still maybe a little Tyrod Taylor coming in for a spot start, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Healthy Twins is going to just keep that bus rolling along. Lock it up for the Healthy Twins, getting it done by 11. Now, let's throw it into me broski. What are we looking at here with the standings? And man, can't wait for that interview with our special guest.
All right, Bluto, this is the week. 7-0. I feel it. I think you got it. Let's take a look at their standings after 7 weeks. We've got Beth's Healthy Twins running at 7-0. The Pubic Medusas at 6-1. We've got Give Me Flowers at 5-2. And then we've got 3 teams sitting at 4-3 above 500. The Hot July Pies, the Cum Sales, and the Big Dak Energies. Sitting at 3-4 in the hunt still. The La Porta Potties, the Taint Parties, and the ESPNs. And then down in the cellar, 2-5, still not out of it. Everything's mashed up. Anybody can do it. The Ham Stars jump up from the very bottom with the 1 win, and they get back up to 2. We've got the tight end girls who just showed that they can score a lot of points. We got John Wilkes Tooth, who can score very few points. And then we've got the Scrotums, who are missing Justin Jefferson right now, just waiting, hoping they come back to make a run to the top. And finally, Dame Judy Dench with his 5th loss in a row, sitting at 2-5. That's where our standings are at. And now we're going to take it away, move to one of our favorite segments, the owner interview segment. All right, and thank you, Amphibious Artemis, for rolling us through the league standings. Quite exciting right now. And here we are. Hello to all and welcome to our fan favorite segment, Owner, I Barely Know Her, where each week we get to meet one of the esteemed owners from the Public Honors College of Fantasy Football League, learn a little bit about their teams, a little bit about their strategies, and heck, maybe something about themselves. Tonight, we've got the leader of the pack, the undefeated one, the sore dick meat that can't be beat, the owner of Beth's Healthy Twins, Pat. Pat, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Doing great. Happy to be here. We got a lot of questions for you tonight. Everybody is just curious about where this team came from and what you're doing over there. So love to
Yeah,
just pick your brain tonight and learn a little bit.
don't keep your expectations low. Like I say during the chat all the time, the knowledge base is not there. So as long as the questions aren't too in depth about football, I think we'll be okay.
Sounds good. Well, let's jump right into that. The knowledge base not being there. You've advertised that a few times before. Some people might have thought that maybe that's just a play that you've got going and you're sneaking under the radar. But what would you say your strategy is here?
It's definitely I think I've definitely this year I've been more open to like trades and evaluating like value of players, but in that same breath, I just like you can get so bogged down by all these like analyst positions and predictions and everything. It's just I try not to, and if I like I'll try before the season. Like I always joke and say I listen to about an hour or two of podcasts or do an hour or two research. That really is it. I mean,
Yeah.
every year I make the mistake of like, oh crap, the draft's next week. I got to get on that, and then Friday before the Sunday or whatever comes up, and I'm like, all right, here's some podcasts on the way to work, and then I'll just go to the next one if I don't like the personalities of the guys talking, because it just like some of them are just like so pompous and stuff, and it's like you guys are just talking about something like you're just talking about other people's lives. It's a really weird like career choice that they've made. But good for them for making money for it. But yeah, if I just go to the next one and tune it out. But this year I lucked out because one of the podcasts I listened to happened to mention Puka Nakua, and
Yeah.
yeah, I looked up his stats as soon as I like got to work, and I was like, all right, seems like a he's got the size for it and everything, and I was like, I'll take a shot. Like I'm all about sleepers. Like I've often thought about drafting sleepers in like the first or second round, but obviously more of the with the dynasty now, like sometimes that can be beneficial, but sometimes it's a big gamble if you want to do the short versus long game and stuff. And as we've seen with injuries and trades and all this other shit, like the long game is just really hard to predict. So that's what makes dynasty even tougher.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the podcast, it's take it for what it's worth. It's somebody else's opinion. I mean, for some folks, I think it's now you can blame it on them if it didn't go well kind of thing, but ultimately it's, you're just throwing guys out there that might have the best projection week in and week out. So
yeah, and I used to always like, second guess myself. I'd jump on Fantasy Pros and be like, start or sit. Like, do I start this guy and so and so? And like 31 of our 35 experts say this. And now I'm just like, no, like this guy's good. He's been good for me week to week. Like if he's not good, somebody else will take his place and go off for 20 points if he only gets 5. Like, and I've been lucky enough where that's kind of happened every week. I mean, I think I've had some like injuries that have propelled players like Zach Moss to the top, and stuff, and just didn't expect that. But I'll take it. I definitely, I like having the guys that aren't always in the conversation of like the top 5, positional players and stuff. And I just like having them kind of luck of the draw and being able to be one of them. One to 3 of them always go off week to week for me. So I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that. You're 7-0. You're leading the league in standings. You're leading the league in overall scoring as well. What has been the key factor to your success this year?
I think I mean, Miami doing well always helps. But yeah, I mean, my number one guy, obviously, I traded him away with John, so that's not as much of a factor anymore. I yeah, I mean, like I said, Zach Moss is doing really well. Mostert has been doing incredibly well, which is really good. I mean, he's like number 2, which I had no idea. He's like 31, so he might as well be 55, like in football year. And yeah, it's been really refreshing to see him do so well on a very like seemingly a pass heavy offense. Like here's this running back doing insanely well. And then Puka's just been going off and being an incredible first year player, and just seems like I mean, who knows after this year, but he seems like a pretty level headed guy. Like he seems fairly scandal free. So we'll see where it is in like 5 years from now. But I mean, he seems like a interesting guy, and just it's like, all right, I love to see, I like to see his success. So
yeah, crushing it out of the gate. I think between Puka and Zach Moss, it's just like taking your team from potentially not being projected very well to all of a sudden, wow, this team can score. I mean, preseason predictions, Arrivederci Keelaterd had you at 1-13, and here you are at 7-0. What would you say to Arrivederci right now?
I don't know who that is, and I don't really care to. No, but I think it was easy to make that prediction. I mean, I'm never in like the bottom, 3 of the fantasy pool. I usually do pretty well and usually get to the dance at the end, and then whatever happens, happens. Um, but yeah, I mean, even a guy like, I would have my doubts in the beginning of the season. Like I was expecting Mark Andrews to just like light it up at the beginning of the season, be number 1, number 2 every week. And now he's getting up there, but it's taken him a while.
Yep.
And especially with, Lamar securing a contract, I thought like, all right, this is it. Like he's going to come out of the gate and they're going to mesh well. And they've known each other for a while. They've been playing together. Like he's gonna tear it up. And now he is. Now they're doing well. But yeah, that took a while to get going. I expected Kyler Murray to be back at this point and he to be my leader. I hadn't. Kirk Cousins came out of nowhere for me. I mean, he's always been consistent. I just didn't expect him to be a top, 6 or whatever.
Yeah.
Consistency, and then he was like top 2 there for a little while. So yeah, that's been refreshing and stuff. And but yeah, I mean, it's like I love to talk trash and stuff, but I'm certainly not like super cocky. I mean, just every team in this league is like 1 to 3 injuries away of just being torpedoed. So it's like,
tell me about it.
Yeah. Luckily, it's like, if the injury's on Miami's side, like I'll just take Jeff Wilson and then I'll take Salvin. And it's like that's the only depth I have is Miami running backs. Is the only depth I have.
I think that's the depth you need, though, when you're running the geriatric Mostert out there. I don't think any of us would have believed Mostert would still be in a starting lineup and producing what he is. So I think you're covered, when that inevitable injury does happen.
Yeah. And I think Rachaad White, I think he's doing a little better now. He kind of had a slower start, so I was glad to get him through the trade there. But yeah, I see him working out. I got high hopes for him and everything too. So
yeah, so halfway through the season, 7-0. You're saying you're not cocky, but I'm feeling like maybe you're a little cocky, like the cock's starting to show a little bit. Puka's playing, Moss is playing, Kirk is just a nice level, low or high floor kind of performance. Mark Andrews is starting to catch on. Do you think he got what it takes to just keep this rolling and do the championship?
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah, I think I do. I like talking a lot of trash because usually, I'm not super active on the thread and everything, but I do like talking a lot of trash because it's just, it's uncharted territory. So it's like I'll talk all the trash I want if I can back it up and everything, and then inevitably, if I start to lose and stuff, I'll just bow out and just not talk that much in the thread. but yeah, I mean, it's just yeah, I like where I'm at. I like beating people week to week. Um, I love setting a scoring record, even though it only lasted for like 2 weeks. But yeah, it's been good. I like calling people out for not so much like their fantasy football performance, but just how they are as a person.
Absolutely.
I like that very personal level of trash talking, be it someone's profession, their life choices, their family, their appearance, like anything like that. Like, like I don't have enough football knowledge besides how much I'm winning to really talk much trash, but I'll cut you down to a cellular level on a number of other attributes.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really getting in people's heads this year. Maybe they're making bad last minute choices. They could flip flop their flex or something because they know who they're facing and they're just overthinking it. You're getting in their heads. I like the strategy.
Yeah,
I think it's working for you.
Yeah, I know. So many players on here that nobody saw coming. I mean, I think even my kicker got like 20 points one game. It just happens.
I mean, yeah, and that's a debate we're having: kickers and defenses. Do you have those spikes or not?
It's a rifle. It's a rifle debate. It's you don't want to. The caveat is, you take that kicker out of there and you put a more positional player there, but then that just gives every other team a chance to have that savior player that those tight games where it's only a point or two difference. You have that one player that happens to get 25. It doesn't matter how many other players do poorly. So it's a tough decision. It's I tend to just like I like the other flex spot. That was cool. But yeah, I tend to fall on the side of just keeping the defense and keeping the kickers and stuff, because it is just it's a nice, I don't want to say handicap, but it's a nice like equalizer amongst all the teams. It's like this, the ceiling for a kicker is certainly lower than the ceiling for a defense, but the floor also for the defenses can be very low.
Right.
But it's good. Yeah, and that again, that goes back to I had no idea that we could have a minimum of, we could only lose 9 points on the defense. I didn't know that until a few weeks ago, so that's good to know.
You were risk averse. You make sure you got the W. That no matter what.
Yeah.
So
I was treating every game like a playoffs. Like a win is a win. Like I don't win the points, whatever. I'd rather have a victory.
Hell yeah. So you mentioned it earlier, the Tyreek trade.
Mm-hmm.
You feeling any remorse there, or are you feeling good about what you got for it? And obviously you're 7-0, so Tyreek would only just be giving you more points, but
that's true. Yeah.
Didn't need him.
At this point, I don't think, it wouldn't change my standings, obviously. But it certainly, what it could have done is it could have overshadowed Puka in my rotation. It could have been like, or Puka, maybe I didn't draft him. Like if I wouldn't have had that extra spot in the beginning, maybe like I would have been like, oh, now I need a really proven or seemingly, less risky receiver or running back. So maybe I would have never put Puka on my radar. It could have affected me like that. But I think short term, I think right now, Charbonnet and Johnson, neither one of them have been terrible, but they haven't been great. But for rookies, they've been fairly standard. So I think short term, I think John got the better end of the deal. But, I think Rachaad White and I think I think those two guys I mentioned next year and going forward will be solid investments. But time will tell. There's certainly been, obviously we're very familiar with all these rookies that have all these high expectations and don't meet them, and they just kind of flame out. And
yeah, I mean, you're building for the future. You're building the dynasty. You made a move that was a big one, and we love to see those kind of highlight trades going through where you get the big names, not these little, third round picks for some untrusted rookie kind of thing. You went big. Yeah, we got the people doing, but that everybody's playing with their own style, making little micro moves, but you made a macro move, and it's paying off.
That, just like they say in backpacking, ounces make pounds. So little small decisions, they build into something bigger, or they just go nowhere.
That's right. So talking about trades, anything on your mind right now? I don't want you to necessarily, you don't have to give up your whole strategy because the world is going to be listening to this. Don't want you to give anything too much away, but are you considering anything like for an extra push here? Or are you feeling really good about your team? I know you mentioned Kyler Murray is sitting there on the bench. You don't really need him right now, but there could be some teams out there that really need a quarterback and might be a savior towards the end. So you thinking about anything like that?
Yeah, I think quarterback would probably be he would be certainly a guy I'd be willing to part with in order to get more depth in those positions like we talked about. Like I think my strategy, I always tend to like draft wide receivers over running backs and stuff. To me they just seem to stay healthier and just have like I guess the especially in this league, how many people we have in it, it's just the gulf of running backs just drops off so fast. Whereas like wide receivers, it's just a little bit easier to kind of maintain these week to week, consistent players. But yeah, I think quarterback, I'm good right now, but I could see a few years needing one for sure. So if I could trade off Kyler and don't necessarily need him right now, trade in for a little bit more depth in maybe my running back or wide receiver positions. Certainly that would be attractive. Or trade him for a younger quarterback that's maybe unproven that I could sit on for a little while or something like that. But yeah, I mean, right now all my positions are pretty good, but like we just talked about, that could change 2-3 weeks. That could be totally different. But
that's right.
Yeah, I think I'm probably for once, probably lighter in the wide receiver format than I am running backs, but yeah, so would
Time will
prefer
tell.
something like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, let's switch up gears a little bit. Let's
Yeah.
cue some Marvin Gaye and get personal. Let's get it on, man. So when you're not out here dominating the fantasy league, you're out dominating various wildlife. So
Yeah.
what is your favorite game to hunt and your favorite weapon of choice when slaying these creatures?
Well, not to get too personal or too sensitive, but I don't really enjoy the actual like slaying or the killing.
Yeah.
I'm never averse to telling people that. I think it's important that some people hear it too, you know, like nothing against other hunters and stuff. Like a lot of them just don't think too much about they can compartmentalize and see it as, you know, they're not they're just providing for their family, they're enjoying the outdoors and things like that, and that's great. And I love hunting. Like 90% of my enjoyment of hunting is just being outside. Like I love something that gets me outside in like January. Otherwise, I would never be out. But yeah, the um, weapon of choice is no question my compound bow. Um, I have hunted turkey and goose with a shotgun, but I didn't see a bird either time. So I haven't put in much. I only put in like one time for each of those species before, and deer's been the only other thing I've really gone after. This year, I definitely went out of my comfort zone. I went to Montana and I went out to hunt elk and mule deer, and so very different than whitetail hunting. Because you know, like whitetail hunting is typically very stationary. You know, you get up in a tree, you get in a ground blind. To a limited extent, some people will go out and use natural cover and kind of sit in one area and wait for the whitetail to come around, especially in an area like Maryland where you know they have a fair amount of public land, but it's not based on the amount of people around and the surrounding properties. It's tough to really be able to cover a lot of ground in that public land. You're kind of just, you know, sheltered in place there and forced to stay in one area. Um, but yeah, I love the freedom that a bow provides. I mean, Maryland's really good with giving a really long season for archery. I can use my bow throughout, you know, if I want to use it in a muzzleloader or a firearm season, I can. Maryland's very good about giving you you know, high bag limits. I can kill like 15 doe with my bow just during archery seasons, and then I can use my bow during muzzleloader and kill like another 10. Like it's an obscene
Wow.
amount of deer. Yeah, it's an obscene amount of deer. Um, and if I hunted in like Baltimore County or like Montgomery County, it's unlimited doe. So like
Wow.
it's such a problem there. There's so many doe per square mile. Deer, well, not just doe, deer in general and per square mile. But yeah, and I love going out west and doing that hunting and being able to just like cover miles of ground in different elevation and like be like really actively hunting, like calling to elk, having them respond, having them come in. You know, I never got an elk that was like within shooting range. Call. Rude, 20. Um, but yeah, I called an elk in with about 75 yards, so I never saw it, but I could hear how close it was. And just to give you an idea how thick the vegetation is, you don't see a 600-pound animal that's like 75 yards from you. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But you hear them, you know, calling to you and stuff. So it was a really good experience and everything. Saw plenty of mule deer. Never seen an elk before, you know, in the wild. So being able to see them and hear them every day, you know, albeit usually far or hear them up close and then see mule deer every day was really cool. I love that a bow is just like super quiet. You know, I can do it in a neighborhood. I killed a deer at John's neighborhood last weekend. You know, it's just like it would be really rude to bring a shotgun back there, even if I was like 150 yards or whatever the rule is from a dwelling. It would just be so loud for that neighborhood, and just a bow is so nice to be able to just be quiet about it. And I think I don't know, it's debatable about like, I think, you know, all hunting tools are certainly more ethical than their natural death would provide, you know, be it getting hit by a car and paralyzed on the side of the road or dying of CWD or EHD or any number of diseases. It's certainly a much more merciful kill. Um, be a bow, bow rifle muzzle loader. But yeah, I love the bow. It's fun too because it's kind of like golf or I'm terrible at team sports, but any like solo sports, I can excel at. And a bow is very much that. It's just peaceful. It's just you. Every mistake is tends to be on you, and it's just relaxing just to practice. Just sling a few arrows if you have the space for it. I don't have the biggest yard, but I just set up a target in my carport and shoot down my driveway into the carport. It's the safest direction from all the houses around and stuff. So I couldn't do that. I couldn't just blast a 30-06 into my carport.
Talking about practice. Yeah.
That's talking about practice.
Getting it right. Talking about practice. So the compound bow is the choice. What are your thoughts on the crossbow? Is that an old man game? Is that cheating? Where do you lay on the crossbow hunting these days?
It's a difficult conversation these days. I certainly I like I like that they get some more people involved in the sport. Guys that aren't particularly strong or coordinated, or simply if a guy is just looking to get outside and enjoy all that hunting has to offer, and that aspect, then sure, pick up a crossbow, use it as a gateway hunting tool to get into the sport and extend your season and stuff like that. But that being said, I don't think it gives the user as much of a connection as like starting. Like if you really want to do archery, you should start with like recurve, longbow, or compound. Like it's just the crossbow, being able to load it and then just pull the trigger when you see your target with a magnified scope and everything. You're using a rifle, you're using a gun. Like it's just not. It's technically archery, but it's not really. So I think use it to get into it, sure, but when you have the time and you really want to get that connection, and because you got to practice to be really good with a bow, and you got to be proficient with it and stuff, and I have so much to learn, and I've only been doing it a few years, but you can practice all you want in your driveway, but the first time you see that deer coming to range, you're sitting there shaking like a shitting dog, and you just gotta, there's so many variables and everything. Then you got to pull back without the deer seeing you or hearing you, and it's very challenging, but it makes it so rewarding. I was lucky enough to get my first bow kill the second time I was ever hunting. The first time I probably could have done it, but I figured out real quick that the scented cover scent wafers, which smelled like, they say, like earth, that I was using, every deer that came in was just like pissed, just like smelled it, and it was like, fuck that, and it just like backed out. So I learned real quick that those weren't the right scent to use, and then the second time I got my first deer, which was an incredible feeling.
Right on.
A lot of bow hunters I've talked to are they don't get a deer for their first 2, 3, 5 years, and I'm amazed they stay with it. I really am. But also they might be rifle hunters too, so they might just use the bow for that season and then go back to the rifle and everything. So obviously, as rifles and everything are much more efficient tools, certainly.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, a very diplomatic answer to a highly contested topic of debate in the hunting sphere. So at the last draft party, many of us got the fortunate ability to taste your meat, and you produced for us some venison jerky. Now, I know just from history, you're a culinary expert when it comes to what you catch or kill. What would you say is your top dish that you've created with a slain foe?
I do enjoy the cooking. I hate the cleanup, but I do like just a lot of hunters, like they'll pepper deer into various dishes and then tell people afterwards, say, oh, well, like if you don't, because a lot of people have these preconceived notions because they see deer wander through their yard, something like that, they get like a connection to them, maybe like living next to a farm and seeing a cow and stuff like that, and I get it. But I'm never like that. I tell people straight up, like, this is a deer. This tastes good if you give it a chance. And I've yet to have someone that's tried it's been like, that's not for me. Like I've yet to have that happen. But yeah, that deer bologna is a great way to get people into it. That's actually a deer that I'll drop off to the processor to make that bologna, because they have that seasoning and that recipe down to a science. like I have a smoker and stuff like that, but I don't have the casings and all that stuff. But what I do like to make, I really just like a standard, keep it simple. I'll take the back strap out of the deer, which is like some of the most tender. There's two different kinds of like tenderloins. There's like the true tenderloins, which are, inside the gut cavity along the spine, next to the pelvis. There's just two long strips of tenderloin there, and that's like the most tender. But then I prefer them the long back straps, along obviously each side of the spine. Those are super tender as well. So I'll just cut like a 6-inch piece of that, and just sizzle it on a stovetop in a frying pan or whatever, and then cook it like medium rare or medium, and just cut it into little medallions, and have that with just potatoes and over easy eggs and onions in a skillet. And I mean, there's like no beating it. It's like the best breakfast you can imagine. And that's one of my favorite things to make and eat. I really like a good deer burger. I'll just take ground venison and mix in like 25% pork belly, to give it some fat, because venison's really good, but it is, it's not that fatty. And then deer fat is kind of tacky. So you can use it in small doses, but you don't want like a fatty deer steak. It's not going to taste like a fatty, beef steak.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll mix pork belly in those burgers, and I've never had a complaint about the burgers. They are awesome. I'd put my deer burgers up against any restaurant burger, no question.
Hell yeah. We'll have to get some of those at next year's draft party. And I hope everybody everybody listens to this and comes to the draft party. We had a really great showing last year. I think we had eight of the 14. Maybe we can get up to 10. I know we've got some out of towners, but let's entice them all with the bologna and the burgers potentially. It's good stuff.
I could assuming I put some more deer on the ground this season, I definitely like to get a nice big tray of sliders or something like that. I don't know how we can heat them up, but microwave. Yeah,
there we go. Yeah, we can make it happen. Hot plate, something like that. Well, we've got the producers telling me that I've got 10 minutes left on this Zoom conference call because I don't pay for these things. So we're going to go through two more questions with you. Sure. One of them, we all know, we've heard tonight about your bow hunting and the deer, but we know you spend a lot of time on the water as well. You are a man that does like to fish the fish. And we've got a couple others in our league that are doing the same thing. We've got Brian down south out of southern Florida there that's fishing. And what I didn't know tonight was Big Drew Barnes likes to slay the trouts or whatever that fish is. I know you said it earlier. I don't know what these fish one way or the other, but if you had to give some tips to these folks in the league, because you are the leader here tonight. You're 7-0, so you have this pedestal to be able to talk down to everybody. What are your fishing tips to Brian and Drew?
To Drew, I'm gonna tell you to stop catching those striped bass. There's not many of them left, so I hope you release that one. No, but catch all you want, Drew. Whatever you need to make you feel better, because you are not doing well in this league. But just like hunting and just like a lot of sports, just persistence and patience gets you a long way. You don't want to cross the line into stubbornness and be like, the fish have to be here or the deer have to be here, and hunt or fish the same place over and over. And just you got to put yourself in a position to get that extra 5% or 10% if it happens to be luck or whatever. You got to put yourself in the position to be like that. So yeah, I mean, saltwater fishing, I always just like to keep it pretty simple. I have a core set of lures that if they don't catch the fish, I just tell myself they're not there and I move on. They're a little plastic paddle tail, looks like a little minnow, like a 4-inch paddle tail on a 1/4-ounce jig head. I like the Z-Man brand. They're you can stretch them out. They last. They're the only thing that holds up to like bluefish. If you can catch a dozen bluefish on one Z-Man, you can't really do that with any other soft plastic.
It's like the Magnum version. Yeah. Okay. Really stretch it out there.
Oh yeah. A 1/4-ounce jig head, a little 4-inch paddle tail. There's not much you won't catch on that. You can use that same jig head and put a little gulp. It's like a little soft plastic, another soft plastic, a little bit more scent in there. They go bad. They sit in this little nasty ass juice but it works really well. Like it works just as well as like live bait, in my opinion, especially for like flounder and just about anything will eat a little white gulp curly tail. So you put that on that jig, or you have like a little 1 ounce jig. And if you can't catch anything on that paddle tail or that curly tail with those little jig heads, I mean, I think the fish just probably aren't there. And probably what you could add to that, like those little, inline spinners, like little MEPs, or a little, maybe a little surface popper. And between that, I mean, if you're not catching fish, like that covers your whole water column. Like there's definitely lures that work better in some cases for those, but if you have all those and you've tried all those in a spot, like I said, the fish probably just aren't there or they're not going to eat.
There it is. There it is. I mean, my takeaway from this is go to the 7-Eleven, get the big gulps, the one sitting in the nasty ass juice, and you're good to go. You're going to find something eventually.
You're going to find something.
You're going to find it. So, Pat, thank you so much for being on with us tonight. I know everybody's been itching to hear from you as you've made this run undefeated. Some of us here are rooting for you at this point, saying, let's make it perfect. Let's do the full year, 14-0, run it. We need that. We need something like that for this league. Some of us are rooting for you. Some of them are rooting against. I know there's a begrudging back-to-back champion run going here that a little upset about losing the game to you, I think. So, but us here down in the cellar, us here on the injured reserve, we're pulling for you up there at the top. You've got fans.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to say to the league before we sign off here tonight?
Yeah, just happy to be a part of it. Happy to be here. Happy to continue winning. I will continue talking trash. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. I got a lot of real estate up here to put a lot of crowns. So this might not be, a one-off. You don't know. But yeah, I look forward to continuing to beat all of you week to week. And that's about it. It's a nice little, pleasure. And when I'm sitting there in the tree stand, I don't put much into it. I'll look every now and then. And it's good just to keep seeing those W's come up. It's nice.
That's right. All right. Everybody heard it here tonight. Get ready for the SmackDown. Pat is coming to bring you an L week in and week out. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Good luck, everyone. I mean that, except against me.
Diddly ho. That was one of the best interviews we've had. I mean, goodness gracious. Nicely done. A different interview style, which I certainly like. And really got to the heart of some issues there. I mean, asking the hard-hitting questions. That's what we do here on Cum Paude. Proud to be able to do it, and really, really great to have Pat on. We got a big week. It's getting to be crunch time, man. Trade deadline. We're going to see some teams making some moves here very, very soon. But in the meantime, buddy, let's keep that chat flowing. Let's have a great time this week in week 8. And baby, NBA starting, NFL, college football. And are we a week away from college basketball? Man, the fall is so great. I know y'all loving it. Just like me and just like Bambi. Say goodnight, Fermi.
Good night, Ferm.
Thank you for listening to the official podcast of the Public Honors College Fantasy Football League. Cum quickly, cum often, and cum loud.